Hi, we're going to make the video for homework 2, and a big part of this is Desmos. Desmos.com. So this assignment is actually kind of hard if you didn't have Desmos, but if you had Desmos, it'd be a great tool, and this is a really good way for you guys to get ready for Algebra 2. Okay, so here I got my laptop, and let me maybe, oh yeah, okay. And I put in the generic formula we talked about in class. That's the generic equation for a circle. And again, if you just want a concept review here, where the heck did this formula come from? We think about it as being a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. That's Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, so if you wondered, oh, well, how'd you type that in? If you hit this little caret button, that's how you go to put in an exponent, this little 2 up there, okay? So Pythagorean Theorem is the area or the formula for finding, or it's a truth statement that if you know one side of a triangle and you square it and another side of the triangle and square it, you end up getting the third longest side squared. But it doesn't graph anything because this is an XY coordinate. So we think about kind of air drawing a triangle on here. We'd go over, let's say, I don't know, 3 or 4. Go over 3, maybe up 4. Those would be our X and Y values. So to think about a triangle I'm going to draw, I got to put in an X and I got to put in a Y value. And that's going to allow me to graph something here. And if I went over a certain amount and up a certain amount, that would create this hypotenuse. And then I could make a circle from that triangle. So it'd be like over and up, yep, make a dot, and then whoop, make a circle. So we figured out that it's probably that this thing is the radius. And the way we figured that out is we noticed if we made this thing 1, x squared plus y squared is 1 squared. Notice there's a circle. So that equation made that picture. Let's look at that really quickly. I went over 1, left 1, up 1, down 1. Definitely that is the radius of 1. But when I change that number to 2, notice my radius isn't 2. It's something between 1 and 2. And so in fact, what my radius is actually the square root of 2. So once again, thinking about that should make sense where this came from. That's the radius squared. So if my radius is 2, the equation would look like radius 2 squared. So now that I've changed it to look like that, notice that since I changed it to say 2 squared, it now has the radius of 2. Over 2, left 2, up 2, down 2. That's a circle at the origin. Pretty cool. So now let's look at, okay, instead of writing that, I could write just the number 4. And notice that's the same picture, isn't it? And the number 4 really is another way to write 2 squared. So there's a couple ways on Desmos. You can just make sure I'm not lying to you. You can retype this in, and you kind of got to play around and make sure you go to an exponent and come back down, but I'm going to put y squared and push the down arrow equal. I'm going to put 2 squared, okay? And notice this one was the red circle, that one's the blue circle. Oh, the blue circle, they graphed right on top of each other. That's another way to kind of prove these are the same equation. We also notice if you add a 0 in here with these, or if you subtract 0 from an x value, I still got the same circle. In fact, now I've graphed the red one on top of the blue one. That's the same circle. So an equation can look a couple of different ways. And that's what I have going on right here. Back here to my assignment. I notice the center of my circle is at 0, 0. So notice if the center's at 0, 0, I could write it here. There's the 0, 0 right there. That's where the center is. And sometimes we'll write it with nothing there because again, 0, x minus 0 would still just be x. Any number, like the number 5, 5 minus 0 would still be the number 5. So a variable minus 0 would still be that variable. So we notice here the center's at 0, 0. And let's look at my radius. So that's a little sneakier. Interesting. It looks like each box is counting by 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so my radius is 8, and it goes 8 to the right, 8 to the left, 8 up, 8 down. Yep, radius 8. So we know my formula looks like this. X minus 0 if the center is 0, and y minus 0 if the center is 0. And I get my radius squared. That's kind of my generic formula. But I know I don't have any old circle. I know my radius is 8. I also know I don't really have to write those zeros in there. I can rewrite it like this. So hopefully you're okay rewriting it like that because both of them will graph the same graph. Also, hopefully you're okay with rewriting 8 squared. I could also write it like this. So all of these equations will graph exactly the same picture, but this is probably what they'd be looking for on the test is, can you make it look like this? Correct, all 3 of these are correct, but this is probably the standard equation that you'd be most likely to see. Okay. Next, interesting. They moved the center. So here was the center at 0, 0, and now 1, 2. Looks like they moved over 2 and up 2. Okay, so let me just make positively sure. If they moved over 2 and up 2, okay, so they moved right 2 and up 2. That means the center must be at the coordinate 2, 2. Well, we said earlier that when the center was at 0, 0, I could just plug those values in there. And that's a correct statement. Now, let's make sure we know what we're doing here before I just go plugging stuff in. So maybe try this out. We kind of know our center's at 2, 2, so we want to kind of just swap out 0, 0 for 2, 2. And let's see if that works. I'm going to delete that one. Okay, so we'll try that out. Ooh, pretty cool. It looks like it moved over 2, up 2, and that's exactly what we want. There's something wrong with this radius. I left the radius at 4, and I think I got to double check this radius, so let's count that off. So my radius here would be, looks like I have to count by ones now because each box is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my radius would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, my radius is 4. And I got a 4 there, but my picture doesn't look like that picture. Notice the origin is inside the circle on my picture and outside. So notice my radius here is not 4. It looks like it's 4, but it's not. It went between 2 and 4. So that means that radius is 2. That's to go from 2 back to 0 would be 1, 2. Ooh, wait. Remember, I have to do my radius squared. So if my radius is 4, I have to show it radius squared. Now that's our picture we want. Okay. And that's definitely looking good. So if my center's at 2, 2, my radius is 4, 4, 4, 4. Cool. So that's my equation. I can use Desmos to double check my answer. So that's my equation there. And I was correct. So x minus 2 squared, y minus 2 squared. Notice inside the parentheses are liars. If that's a positive, then that has to be a negative. If that's a positive, that has to be a negative because they're in these parentheses. and my radius here was 4, and so my radius squared 16, and that's what goes there. Now, it'd totally be correct if you wanted to leave it like this. It's saying the same thing. 4 squared is 16, so both of those would be correct answers. All right, next question. I gotta do the opposite. I need a center of 0, 0 and a radius of 1/3. So that's gonna be, I think I can just do what I did here. If I know the center, I plug it in, but they're lying. If I know the radius, I square it and it goes there. So let's give that a try. When a circle's center is at 0, 0, then this is what it can look like. That would be correct, or this. Now my radius squared, now I gotta be careful with that. If that's my radius, I gotta write it like that. So maybe off to the side, I might wanna think about this. 1/3 squared should be, if an exponent means multiply a number by itself that many times, I'm gonna do that. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 3 is 9. Ooh, so that would be a third way to show this equation. X squared plus y squared is equal to 1/9. Pretty cool. Now, if you don't feel good about this, you can go over to your handy dandy calculator here, Desmos, and double check your answer. You can type that in and verify. Check out the next video.